those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
Scott, I don't know if I can, I don't know if you would like me to address this now or when we get there, but there is an item in the received and file I'd like to pull out and discuss and
Okay.
make a decision on individually.
Okay. I think we can do that when we get
When
to
we get
that.
there, I just wanted to make note that I want to do that.
You got it. Item number 3 in receive and file.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Let's go to, my computer shut down on me here. We're going to go to Jason Slack, Director of Buildings and Grounds, discussion and/or decision, approved change order number 3. Jason, you're up.
This is just adding the cost of the previously approved change orders to the overall cost of the contract with Ronco Construction. The addition is in the amount of $4,463.58. It was for the acoustic ceiling tiles in the stairwell S1 and for the shaft wall modification they had to do between the basement and the first floor in the B wing. Those were both previously approved, and they're just adding them to the overall contract.
Okay, so
That's a deduct, right, Jason?
No.
I thought that was a $4,500 deduct.
No, the next one is.
okay, so
Oh, I see what you're saying.
this is the 4463.58, right?
Correct.
Are they change orders 28 and 29, were they? Or what has 28, 29, I don't know what those numbers stand. What change order was this? Change order 3?
I don't have the exact, what the
That would be right,
CRC
would it
was.
be? Approved change order 3? Yeah, it says change order 3. We've had more than 3 change orders.
Yep, they're just adding these. There'll be more of these to sign. This is just,
Right, but I mean, we've already approved change order 3, right? I mean, there's been more than 3 change orders.
yes.
So
I don't have a change order summary to provide at this time, but
So this really isn't a change order, this is an amendment to the
to the contract,
contract.
yes.
So I think that's what we are approving is amendment to the contract from previous change orders that have been approved.
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Supervisor Wickman, Supervisor Schultz, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, Jason, before we jump to the next one, real quick, is that something that needs to be signed?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so the next one is, switch my page here. Turn over the page. After, okay, it's CRC 031. So, oh, this is part of the same one. CRC 031, alternate clean agent fire system.
What are they doing there, Jason?
So you want to tell us on that deal?
Yeah, this is concerning the fire suppression. It's going into the server room on the first floor for the IT department and on the basement level for the 911 comm center server room. It's fire suppression. It's a halon fire suppression system for the server room. So when this goes off, it doesn't harm the computer equipment. It suffocates the fire by ridding the air of oxygen in those spaces. And basically all this is it's just trying to switch brands of this fire suppression system and save the county a little bit of money.
Be nice.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
This is a reduction of
Yes.
4,500,
Well-
4,590.
When you add the bond and insurance in there, it's a deduction of $4,590.
And I apologize, but this is just a different product then?
It's a different brand of product. It's the same Halon system. It's just a different brand is all it is. And the one we're switching to is
Called Halon?
Halon.
Halon.
Yep.
Is that the powder system?
Yeah, but it takes the oxygen out of the air. Instead of
okay.
putting water on the fire, which
Yeah,
would,
yeah, that's a lot
hurt.
better than water.
yeah, would hurt the equipment. You can't really use it in the occupied area of a building because it will suffocate people. But since it's a server room, you know, it's generally industry standard to use this type of a system.
And then, what's the ongoing maintenance of a system like that?
We have to have it inspected twice a year.
By,
Right now, we're contracting with Continental Fire Sprinkler.
they do those?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, we've got a motion by Supervisor Schultz, and then who seconded it?
Brian.
Shay, by Shay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Hopefully the cold weather won't come back and cause us any more grief.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Damage anything?
Yeah, it's
We
pretty
had a fire sprinkler line break.
I know,
On
did
Saturday.
the water damage anything?
We had to dry out some drywall. There was really no significant damage. We were kind of lucky in that respect. So,
Okay, good.
yep.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're up is Paula Hazelwood, Executive Director, and Shalimar Mazetta, Manager, Rural Development, Advanced Southwest Iowa 2020 End of Year Update and 2021 Year-to-Date Activity Report. Take it away, Paula.
Well, thank you. Good morning. It's really nice to see all of you in person. I feel like I haven't seen most of you for a number of months, so it's good to be here, although it is bitterly cold outside. So I handed out a couple of documents for you that are on your workstation that we're going to cover, and I'm going to apologize right off the start because our update's going to be a little longer than it normally is, only because we want to review an economic impact report with you and explain how all of that works. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off, and then Shalimar will chime in and give an additional report at the end. So the first document that you have here is our 2020 end-of-year report for Advanced Southwest Iowa Corp. I'm not going to review every single thing. You should have also received this via email. If you haven't, let us know so we can double check. We have all of your email addresses correctly. But I just want to run down some of the pertinent points to that. So obviously 2020 was a little bit different for not only Advanced, but a lot of other businesses as well. So we had to make some decisions early on how we wanted to approach that, especially as it were related to our small business community here. So we, Shalimar and Nikki Ferguson on our team basically made a major pivot and just started doing a tremendous amount of outreach. We already have an outreach program that we accomplish each and every year, but this was actually on steroids, just so we made sure that we could notify the small businesses as it related to incentives and different things that were out there to assist them. So as you can see on that funnel, we were able to talk to 322 businesses, which is a lot, but it was well worth it. The outreach actually spun off some additional projects for us. 2020 and going into 2021, I will tell you, this is the busiest that we've ever been. It's kind of hard to fathom that, but you'll see as the numbers as we kind of review things. We are also able to help 22 different either agencies or companies with incentive applications, completed numerous Iowa project questionnaires, which is IPQ, if you hear me refer to that, for targeted jobs and high quality through Iowa Economic Development Authority. Some of those included Applicam, which the county played a vital role in that with us, so thank you again for that. TSL, which is a logistics company, Dayton Freight, which is a new logistics company that's going to be building in South Point. And then we're working with a local manufacturer, and that is Project Win, that they're looking to do an expansion. We also try to make sure that our clients and pretty much everybody is aware that Mid-American Energy has construction incentives available. A lot of people don't realize that. So we are able to connect some of our projects to those and apply for rebates and such as they either built a new facility or expanded. And then we also applied, as the economic development team here, there's a local partners program through Midiam. We have the opportunity to apply for different grants and things through that program. So we did. We were able to apply for one for the 712 initiative in partnership with them for a housing study for the 500 block here, and then also for the rural housing study that's going on for Potawatomi County, which Shalimar is playing a tremendous role in. We were also able to, Shalimar, I would say we, but this was Shalimar directly. She worked with a variety of agencies trying to get funding available to address the building on Main Street in Oakland. And through, different avenues, was finally able to do that through the city's program. That actually is pending right now approval. And so I'm sure she will touch on that, but we're hopeful that that will get approved. And again, the county played a vital role in helping us raise those funds. So really happy about that. And then through Iowa Department of Transportation, as you know, working with Pam and Matt here, we're able to put a RISE grant in for the 192nd Street development. And then we also have a LIFT grant through IDOT for the TSL project, and more than likely we'll be going down the route of a RISE grant as well in the near future. COVID relief was on the top of everybody's minds, and providing our businesses resources was key to their success moving forward. So we played an ample role in that. SBA, the PPP, EIDL, Iowa Economic Development, small business grants, we monitored and tracked all of those. We also played a role with the city on their CDBG program, and actually are still monitoring those and accepting applications for that program. And we also initiated the PPE initiative that we did and distributed the products that we had to the small businesses. Mask and sanitizer were the two primary ones. And then one of the key things that we actually tracked this year was the referrals that we're making to our partners. And substantially, we don't do economic development in a silo. We want to make sure that our businesses have as many resources that they possibly can. And so us making resources and then our partners making resources back to us really worked well. And I think we had about 80 referrals that we did. And you can see that on your pie chart there in 2020. And then collectively, just like we're doing today, this presentation, collectively, most of these were done virtually, but between Shalimar, Nikki, and I, we did about 53 presentations. In the early part of 2020, obviously, those were in person, and then everything kind of pivoted to virtual. But that's, pretty substantial, just again, for educational purposes. Marketing is one of the key things that we have to do in economic development, and we made a lot of strides in 2020. We have an online marketing platform that we utilize, and we get a special rate for that as a not-for-profit. But we were able to continue to enhance our social media following. We created and published 10 original content articles that were pushed out via social media and/or the press. Some of them you may recognize. Hopefully you've seen all of them, but Power Tech was one that we focused on. Rachel Dora Accounting, who is in the process of developing a online accounting app that she's been working on, and Shalimar's and Nikki both have been helping her with that. And then Georgie Ivanov, I call him a serial entrepreneur. He actually purchased a building on Highway 6 and opened up a new wrestling club. But then he also has other products that I've been told he's somewhat of a wrestling icon around here, Georgie Ivanov. He has developed a singlet that weighs, I don't know, it's very light, but he is selling that on Amazon as well as some health supplements. So those articles, again, hopefully you've seen them. We produced an 8-page book, which was a 2013 through 2019 Advanced Southwest Iowa publication that talked about who we are, where the organization came from, who actually formulated it, the successes we've had, our partners. We just celebrate it. We thought it was time. That had never been done, so we did put that out as a publication. We did a small business entrepreneurial digital billboard on West Broadway from May through July. That actually netted us a couple of leads, so that was really good to see. We were featured in a Populous article called Startups Shouldn't Overlook Council Bluffs. Because obviously we're trying to increase our entrepreneurial ecosystem here, so that was a key component of that. We were also listed in the Midwest Business Journal in a feature article about entrepreneurship, And then the state of Iowa SourceLink as the feature spotlight organization. So pretty proud of that. We created a couple of landing pages. As you can imagine, that was pretty instrumental with COVID going on, but one that has basically all the COVID-19 resources, our Back to Business initiative, and then we also did a Celebrate Small Shop Local as well. And then today, you should be getting an email. We were able to work with many of our partners, the county, the city of Council Bluffs, Western Iowa Development Association, and numerous others to put together the livability, that's the Southwest Iowa piece. And that is actually coming out today. So there's a press release, and all of you should get an email with the links to that. But we're really excited about that. It's an 8-page insert specifically about Southwest Iowa that goes into the overall Iowa livability piece. So we have all the digital marketing platform that we can use, and we're hoping that all of our partners and the county, everybody grabs onto that and puts it on their website, because obviously the more people that see it, the better it's going to produce for us. We also worked with a lot of our partners just to coordinate and promote other events, Entrepreneurial Meetup Group, Tech Brew, World Entrepreneurial Day. We had the Rev Pitch competition, which we actually, Nikki raised about $10,000 in money. 4 companies were recipients of those awards, and we partner with TS Bank to do that. So that was a really good event. It's always nice to have it in person, but they did a really nice job of making that. They turned it over to Pivot or to virtual and had the pitch competition live, and then the judges voted on it. So it was really nice that those 4 small companies got some seed money to advance what they were already doing. So projects, collectively, Shalimar, Nikki, and I worked with 107 projects in 2020. Some of those, as you know, I've talked to you about this before, carried over from 2019, even some from 2018 and 2017. So the status of those, we've officially closed 35 of those for various reasons. Either we didn't have a real estate option, they couldn't get financing, just general inactivity, and then unfortunately it does happen sometimes that we lose those projects to other cities and states. The good news is that 46 of those 107 projects are still in our pipeline, and we are actively working with them. And just as a reminder, we don't keep anything in our active pipeline unless one of our team members is playing a critical role of moving that project forward. So always keep that in mind when I'm talking about this. We were able to land 26 of those projects at $49 million in capital investment and 228 new and or retained positions. So the second piece that you have in front of you looks like this. And this is what I want to spend a little bit of time reviewing. And I'm only going to, thankfully, I'll only have to explain the way it works once, because this is something that we're going to be bringing back to you for various projects as we move forward. So we completed an economic impact report. We utilized through our research department an economic modeling platform called InPlan. And InPlan utilizes a set of, as you can imagine, extensive databases, economic factors, multipliers, and demographic statistics. The inputs is we input basically where the project is located, so what's the geography. We input the capital investment, the net new jobs and or retained jobs, and then the average wages that are associated with the project. The output is that you get a customized project impact report like you have sitting on your table. The difference is when we get the report, it's 10 pages long. So Shalimar designed what you have there, and we plucked out the pertinent information, and then we're able to upload that into our digital marketing platform that you have. So the 3 pieces that I want to explain in the way this works is that you're going to have 3 components to it. You're going to have your direct impact, which is your spend of your capital investment. That includes the wages paid for existing and new employees, plus construction jobs that are induced because of the project, which obviously all of those things increase your household incomes as you're paying salaries out. You're going to have indirect impact, which means that your industry is purchasing goods and services, which then impacts and enhances the supply chain, which then impacts your business taxes that are being paid, either sales and use tax and property taxes. So for example, if the direct impact is construction or renovation of a building, which is the project I'm going to review for you, that's how we calculated this off of. The first round of indirect impact will include the purchase of concrete. The concrete purchase spurs the concrete manufacturer in turn to purchase more sand and gravel. The purchase of the sand and gravel is part of your second round of indirect effects, and that cycle spending continues to work its way backwards through the supply chain, which with each round getting smaller and smaller until it actually all of the money is leaks from the community. Does that make sense? So it's all funneled down. You can imagine as a funnel. And then the third piece is the induced impact, which is your household purchases, local import purchases. So buying locally, but we also realize that not everybody's buying stuff locally, so we have to account for that. And then your wages paid and your household tax impacts. So the project that you have in front of you is Project Sue. And I picked this one for a very good reason. It's because we can actually track this project from the very beginning, very first time we started working with them, through the incentive process that we help them achieve, through construction, and then through the property tax implications that have happened on the back end. So this is an existing business in Pottawatomie County that was looking to do an expansion relocation. They're a technical-based service company that purchased, quite honestly, a very large 155,000 square foot dilapidating building. They completely have renovated that building with a capital investment of $10.5 million. They have an existing employee base of 140. We were able to retain all of those jobs, and then they added actually 12 net new jobs into their business. And those jobs are in the administrative capacity. Average wages, 60,000 plus benefits. As you can see on the top of the sheet there was an incentive component to this project, and we actually assisted from very start to finish, and were successful in getting these incentives for the company. So as you can see, the $10.5 million, they got incentives of about it was $940,000, which is about 8.9% of the overall project. When we're working with the incentives, we're not there to, give the farm away, but we use our incentives to gap cost that they may have within the project. So we like to stay under 10%. We were under 10% for this project. So they did receive a targeted jobs grant from Iowa Economic Development, which is 5 years and equivalated to about $98,000. They also received high quality jobs, and I will tell you, this is the last project that the state of Iowa awarded dual incentives for. Now it's one or the other. You either get high quality or you get targeted jobs if you are eligible. So they received $262,000 in investment tax credit through high quality, $120,000 in sales and use refund, and then there was a property tax abatement that was attached to this in the amount of $462,000. So again, $940,000 in incentives and about 8.9% of the overall project for the incentive component. So in keeping in mind those three areas that I told you, so your direct and immediate impact is your $10.5 million. And that's support, that $10.5 million supported 82 new construction jobs for the project, and then supported an additional 23 community-based jobs out of that. Your indirect is your short term. That is your industry that was out purchasing goods and services, which increased the supply chain, which added more wages and jobs, and then that increases their business taxes. And then your third and final component is where you're going to get your more long-term benefits from, and that's going to be based on the direct and indirect impacts, the additional wages, your household spending increases with local and import purchases. That creates more jobs through the supply chain, and then increases your household income or household taxes through either purchases and or maybe they purchased their first home, or maybe they're upgrading to a new home because of the new wages that they're receiving. Also, your induced annual impact, the $16.5 million in payroll. If this company keeps all of the 152 jobs that they have, that is where you're going to be seeing that 16.5 annually. And these are estimates, based on the numbers that we were provided. And then the induced jobs, so all of those extra jobs that are coming through, that's where we see the 20.4 million for your total that you have up there of your 36.9. So those are things that will continue to cycle through the economy here in Pottawatomie County and the region, again, until all of those dollars are eventually leaked out of the community. Any questions on any of that? And again, I'll never have to explain that to you again, but I thought I at least owed it to you to explain the direct and the induced and the indirect, so you kind of have an understanding of how all that pieces together.
Paula, if you don't mind, so the city, abated about 400,000 in property taxes, is that what they did?
So as part of the high-quality jobs program, the state actually can implement the property tax abatement. But yes,
The state
the state,
abated the property taxes for around 400,000?
yes, but the city does have to support that, and there's a resolution that we have to put forth to show that. That is correct.
How long is that for?
That, I believe, is for 6 years. And so this company is already into year 3 of that.
We didn't have to,
No, sir.
we didn't have to abate our,
No, but it's legislation, with high-quality jobs, that is a component of it if they are eligible.
okay.
So the only thing that had to be done, say that
We
again?
didn't lose that tax base then, right, in the meantime?
No, and I'm gonna talk about that here at the end with this piece. No, we did not lose
But
that.
when the city abates, or the state abates taxes on, it's,
There's no tax.
right, so we're not collecting it either.
Right.
Oh, we're
There-
waiting for.
Because it was an existing building, there is tax base on it, so the incremental improvements that were made is what the tax,
The base value.
the abatement is
was
based on.
1.9.
1.9 when the building was purchased in 2017. No.
No, that's
There's the
correct.
extra. It's kind of like a tip.
Yes, that's exactly right. And then I went online and you can see that as the component at the bottom portion. So the estimated taxable value for 2020 on this building is 2.4 million.
That,
So
after them spending X, the assessor only took it to 2.4, huh? Wow.
Well.
I actually did, it's real property and basically anything that they can't take with them if they leave. So
Right.
I wasn't surprised to see that number. I thought it was probably pretty accurate.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So do you guys have any other questions on any of that and how it works? So with the 26 projects that we landed for 2020, we've plucked out a series of them. Some of the projects I worked on, some Shell worked on in rural Pot County, and then some of the entrepreneurial startups or expansions that Nikki worked on. And so we have about 6 of these reports that we're working with. We're still working with our research team on how we can get an accurate depiction of all the projects because some of them had construction components, some of them didn't, some of them were job creation, some of them didn't. So trying to piece all of that together to see, what impact that 50 million basically will have. So we're still working with them, but we didn't want to wait. We wanted to produce this report for you so at least you could see, some of the impacts that have already occurred. And like I said, we'll continue to provide probably mostly project by project, but we'll try to get that overall report kind of refined as we move forward. And the last thing I want to say, I want to turn it over to Shalimar, but I just wanted to thank you, the Board of Supervisors, for your support. You've been great to work with. I really appreciate it. And, we're always here if you have questions. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. And we'll continue to provide you via email all of these monthly reports that we put out for our investors and our Board of Directors.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all. So we have had a really busy 2020, like Paula said. As of right now, in September, I was brought on to a really neat project that is looking to solve the rural food desert issues that we have of rural towns that don't have a grocery store within 10 miles. And so I am currently working with that. I'm happy to say that we have 5 cities committed to going after this. This project was awarded the Rural Innovation Grant by IEDA and was also awarded a special catalyst grant of $100,000 by IEDA. Governor Reynolds has been down to visit with this person who is starting this up and thinks it's a great idea. And me personally, I see something that is not just Iowa, but could be implicated nationwide. I'm really excited to see this growing and flourishing in Southwest Iowa. And so we are currently in the funding phases. We're working with Nebraska Enterprise Enterprise Foundation, as well as a couple banks to figure out how to piece together the final amount of the expansion that needs to happen for everything to be in place. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. Oakland Main Street we should get a word back next week. if we receive the city's grant. If we did, just to remind you all, this is a building in Oakland that is condemned and needs to be taken down, and we have another business that is looking to build on the lot next to it. And their construction people have told them they should not build there until that building is removed because it is dropping bricks and leaning heavily and the foundation's not shored up. So that company will probably be adding 13 new jobs once their expansion is done, including a retail piece, which I think is really great, and it will help with the kind of revitalization of Oakland. And you guys were in for a portion of that funding, so thank you so much for that. And I will keep you posted through email if we end up getting awarded that grant. Ideally, if we do get awarded the grant, we'll be able to schedule everything and hopefully have it down by June. June or July is what we're aiming for, so. And then that means the company next door to it could start building as early as July.
Have you got bids for the demo?
We haven't yet, no.
Okay.
No, not until, the city was interested in possibly going forward with it and trying to let some bids, but I think it's putting the cart before the horse a little bit. If we don't know that we have the funding, I feel like that could put a weird tint on Iowa West Foundation. They feel like they have to fund it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So I want to make sure that we're doing everything according to the standard that we should be, which is honoring everyone's time and energy into it. So yeah, an interesting turn of events. 2020, especially the end of 2020, you would not think that people would be opening retail stores. The past 3 months, I have gotten 3 new retail stores that are opening, that are individual, sole proprietor, not part of a chain type thing. I'm really excited to see it. I think it gives me a lot of hope for the fact that people aren't fully believing that retail is dead, especially in the rural communities. So I wanted to tell you guys that I think that that's a great sign, and it looks like we've got some innovative ways that they're doing things, that they're going to have a very heavy online component as well as a physical store, which I think will be great for our towns. And I mean, pivot was the word of 2020, right? If you're not online yet, we got to figure out how to get you online within the next 2 months that your business doesn't close. We have lost some businesses in 2020. To my knowledge, we've lost 3 that I know that have shut down because of COVID, because of all the implications that have happened and the loss of funds. So, but for the most part, everyone else is still holding on and is still trying to figure out how to make sure that if something like this were to happen again, that they're able to pivot easily and quickly, and that it doesn't need to be something that, causes them to close down for 2 months. I was able to help a local nursing home that was having some major PR issues, and their corporate department tried to mend some of those issues. I wanted to bring this to your attention because this is not a typical economic development project to work with a company on their PR, but it is something that I felt like we should be involved in, and we should be helping companies make sure that they are putting the right step forward and that they're conveying the right image to the communities that they're in. And sometimes when a corporate is located in another state, that can get lost sometimes. So I'm happy to say that most of the issues at that local nursing home and the PR that's been surrounding it is on the mend. The city is working better with them. The county is working better with them. Everyone is getting along better. They've had a lot of management changeover to ensure that this never happens again. And so I should be landing that project here in the next month, just feeling like things are kind of buttoned up. Everybody's talking. Everyone's being good communicators and good stewards. So, and then also we are adding a new logistics company, which I was excited to hear. I haven't heard of, normally I would hear of a couple of those a year. But with COVID, we haven't heard of many of them. And so I'm excited to see that maybe that's starting to ring up back up and people are starting to realize that they can go into business for themselves doing their own trucking and logistics companies. So, like I said, I know Paula's is a little longer today, so I wanted to be sure to be succinct. Do you guys have any other questions? Right now I have 26 projects in my pipeline. It is a lot. I typically run around 20 to 24. I will say typically in a year, just November, December, we're very slow, just because people aren't really willing to do a ton of stuff and work on projects during that time, during the holidays. That was not the case this year. A lot of my, when I have time things that I wanted to get done organizationally, were not able to get accomplished because we have been rampantly busy. So I think we're set up in a really good place. And I'm just excited to see where rural goes now, especially with this rural grocery. I think it's going to be huge.
Okay, Shalom, thank you. Is there any questions for Shalom?
Is there any USDA help for this food desert?
Unfortunately, there isn't because of the LMI components that have to be in the towns of the wages of their median household income. Unfortunately, the towns that, none of our towns really fall as low as it needs to be able to take advantage of USDA.
Probably, I will say too, the two industry verticals that we're seeing a lot of work in is technology and logistics. Those are the two. We've got some in all of the other verticals as well, but heavy on logistics and technology right
When you
now.
say logistics, tell me.
Truck, warehouse,
Okay.
distribution, yeah.
All right.
truck,
Yeah,
yeah.
trucking.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I know, exactly, the supply chain.
And yet, I wanted to go back, you said something earlier and it didn't dawn on me. But was it TSL?
Mhm.
And you said something about us and a RISE grant or us and some consent?
No, and it could be. I mean, I've talked to Supervisor Wickman because he's the board chair, so he's aware of this, but, I'm sorry?
That's not in the county though, is it?
No,
How do we
no.
do that?
Well, I am going to actually propose that the city and the county do a joint application on that project, just because it's gonna benefit.
Right, no, I
all of
understand
Pot
that, but I
County.
don't, I didn't know we could.
But that hasn't come forth yet, so we're working with a timeline of when they're actually going to be relocating all of their employees here, and that's the timeline we're working backwards from, so I would imagine it'll be probably June or July
Okay,
that we revisit the RISE grant. We'll start working on it probably in April or May, but won't submit to IDOT until June or July.
okay.
And
So
then-
yes, I will be coming back with TSL probably to talk to you about that, great question.
I thought you said county, where are they going, where are they located? So,
No, it's just part of the economic development piece of trying to increase our tax rates, move everybody
Sure.
ahead.
Yeah.
And, we've participated in projects elsewhere as well, so.
Yeah,
The only other question I have is for Shalimar. Shalimar, I sent you that email on what's going through the legislature right now on, tell me about it.
The rural housing tax credits?
No, broadband.
broadband.
Oh, yeah.
And they mentioned targeted areas in that as well. Do we have any targeted areas in Potawatomi County on that? Or do you know yet? If you don't know yet, that's okay, we'll stay on top of it.
We aren't 100% sure yet. If it goes in the way that I have a suspicion that it's going to go, so this is all just hearsay, because we are one of the 11 most populous counties in Iowa, we typically get left out of those targeted areas, unfortunately. I'm really pushing and I'm working with my broadband providers. I work with several of them out in the counties that are bringing broadband to not just look at, the big thing is how many people we have outside of actual cities. So if we have Oakland, but we have, say, 10,000 people that are just on the outskirts of Oakland, between Oakland and Hancock, and we have this like big band, none of those are being provided high-speed internet. Because they can only, according to their grants, they can only go so far out from their current infrastructure, right? So, for instance, a good example is my grandparents live 6 miles outside of Oakland, and broadband goes up to about a quarter mile from their house, but they won't run to their house because that's $250,000 to run a quarter mile. So, because of those costs and because the grants don't really assist with that, the idea and the thing that the governor wants to do and that Debbie Durham wants to do is broadband to every home, including the farms, because as we've seen with some of our farmers, they're doing big innovative things, but if they don't have the internet to do it at their place, and they're going off of, for instance, Verizon jetpacks, which is what a lot of people are doing, and Verizon has just recently limited that to 15 megabytes per month, even on unlimited. Which, I don't know if you know much about that, but that is pretty much nothing. I mean,
Plus
you couldn't even
virtual
update your
learning.
phone on it.
Virtual learning plays a huge role in this.
The other big issue too is virtual learning. Students that have been told that they have to quarantine at home, how are they supposed to be able to do online schooling for a month off of 15 megabytes off of the Verizon jetpack? How does that work?
Now, having some of these telecoms, Grizzle Telephone and Western Iowa Networks has fiber.
Yes.
How are they able to do it? Did they do it on their own without grants?
A lot of them have taken advantage of either federal or state grants, but the federal and state grants just don't amount to the kind of money that you need to be able to reach out to all of those rural areas. If you're looking at $250,000 to bore a quarter mile, it doesn't make enough money if you're only going to be able to put 3 people on the line. and you're boring a mile.
Right.
Does that make
Well,
sense?
Yeah, I understand the cost, but how did some small telecoms were able to do it and others?
A lot of times it's through piecing together. Western Iowa Wireless actually acquired another entity, Western Iowa Network, sorry.
Western Iowa Network.
Yeah, Western Iowa Network acquired another entity and they're taking over in Trainer. And they are being able, I've set them up with the, City of Trainer's manager to talk about it and figure out where they're building out to so that they can put in the correct infrastructure to be able to build out as Trainer builds. But the biggest issue is still those farmers and the people that are just too far
I have a question on that.
to be able to serve.
The infrastructure they're putting in, I mean, are they upgrading it, or is it just putting in base layer? So I mean, I guess, are they gonna be able to hit the internet speeds that we're getting in Omaha, Council Bluffs, or are they just getting what was 90s rate?
That's the other thing.
I'm really curious.
Some of them are just upgrading them. They're not laying new line that actually is conducive to it. They're laying copper. They're not laying actual fiber optic internet. And so while they may be able in some places to actually obtain that speed because it's on the old wiring system, there's actually no way to. So a good way to tell is if a company says up to in your contract, that it says where you're gonna get up to 25, that means legally you can get up to 25, but what is going to be your base normal speed is kind of always a given. The companies that say you will be getting 25 megabytes, if you're not getting 25 megabytes, you call them and they fix it.
Right.
Because you're not getting it.
Okay,
So-
will you keep an eye on that?
Absolutely,
Follow
yeah.
that? Yeah, I'm gonna follow it too, so I just want, if we are part of the targeted area, I wanna attack that and try to get some funding for.
I'm really hoping it swings in our way because we do have 937 square miles that are,
Didn't that come out of committee?
No, they're talking about it this week.
I think they're talking
There-
about it
there was
still.
something-
Well, she set aside like $15 million for this, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got some monies, and there's more federal money coming from the rural side. But, hold up real quick, and I had the county attorney read this, and he would like to see this language added to this confidentiality because of our role as putting
Okay.
public money into this, so you can go ahead and take this, and he suggested that we handled it this way, so when you get time, take a look at it.
The
Yeah, I
rural
don't think that'll be an issue.
Yeah.
housing tax credit,
Mhm.
is that for LMI or
No,
developments?
it's for developments, but
Is
we
there a
don't
certain-
qualify for the rule set aside of that because we're number 9 of the 11 most populous
Okay.
counties.
All right,
So even outside of Council Bluffs, which is our most populated area, we still don't. Pot County has to
We don't have
apply
to
to
do
workforce
LMI.
housing tax credits.
Do that on a density basis, 'cause then
Yeah.
Uh,
fit in right in everyone else.
There may, you don't think there's any LMI component to that?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, there is an LMI component to
Well,
it,
let's say I
Yeah.
thought there was.
but we're not, it's kind of a moot point because we can't apply for any of the
Right.
rural part of it anyway.
Yeah.
So they have a
Right.
huge rule set aside. And we unfortunately fall in the one that has to have that has the massive backlog of $10 million that still needs to be funded, but they're trying to fix that, so
Okay,
hopefully get caught up.
That's all I got.
okay.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
sorry
you
we
very
have to
much.
go. 'cause
Thanks.
we have
Sure,
another.
sure, no problem. Thanks again, stay warm.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
Scott, I'll make a motion to approve the funding request for the county libraries in the amount of $329,600.
I'll second that.
That comes out of the rural fund, and just so we all know that this amount of money does not raise the levy any. The levy remains the same.
I'll second.
Shay, second.
But they are able to take advantage of the growth, right?
That is the growth.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she
That's
just, this money goes to the Council Bluffs Library and gets distributed out to all the other ones.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so we have a motion by Supervisor Wickman and a second by Supervisor Shea. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, next up, Matt Wyatt, Planning Director, and/or Pam Kelstrup, Acting Director, update on 2019 flooding event. This is our information discussion.
Come on up, Pam.
Morning, Matt.
Good morning.
Any rest this weekend?
No.
You gonna start, Matt, or?
Yeah, I can kick us off. So we provided you the staff report talking about that we have awarded approximately $2 million. It's going to allow us to acquire 8 of those properties. So we have completed all of the.
Terry's on.
Terry's on. Great.
Terry was.
So.
Terry Brown, you still on?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Nice. Excellent. So we've been awarded that amount. It's going to allow us to purchase 8 of the 32 properties that have expressed interest into the program. And we started just like we talked about. We're going to start nearest to the river, kind of work our way back this way. Throughout this time, we've also tried to jump in on the most impacted areas. That was the $75 million that was awarded through to Fremont, Mills, and Harrison County. We did get our confirmation back from HUD through IEDA. That was that right now we're not going to be able to qualify for those funds. So from what we understand, and Terry can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is that hopefully the goal of what the state's doing is to try and use some of those funds to bring down other amounts of funding that they have. And then some of that funding could potentially get shifted back over to Pot County if they're able to use that $75 million to cover some more funds. So we could get awarded some more money to help purchase more homes in our county. But as of right now, due to all the current circumstances of how we came into this is where we're at right now as far as being able to purchase properties that were affected by that 2019 flood, and it leaves us at 8.
Yeah, so to jump in on that, you're right. With that amount of money being spent in Mills and Fremont and some in Harrison, we're working with EDA and HUD to potentially do what we call an overmatch of acquiring properties. So effectively saying if, like in Mills County, if we have a $15 million grant, typically the HUD money would be used for 25% of match of that. Well, because they have so much money available, but they may kick in 50%, let's say, of that grant, which would then take some of the money that we had, allocated for those acquisitions and potentially use them towards what we call stack properties or stack projects, which Pot County is one of them, where we submitted the application with the number of properties, only a select few fit under the current funding, but knowing that if additional funding becomes available, then we would have the ability to potentially pick off some additional properties.
And I think, Terry, were you thinking it was going to be around June timeframe when we would start actually get to the point where we're going to close on a couple of these first 8 properties?
Yeah, so as of right now, everything's been hung up in, it seems to be hung up in between FEMA and State Historical Preservation Office. The reviews are coming through. We do have a light at the end of the tunnel, I will tell you that. SHPO's comment period ends March 2nd, I believe. So once that happens, FEMA can do their, they can determine however they want to determine to go forward with that 1 or 2 properties. and then FEMA can go forward with the approval of the formal approval of the application. So you're looking, probably into March, by the time they get around to doing that, then with all the paperwork, you're talking May, or March, April, potentially May, June. So yeah, it usually takes a couple months to actually get this stuff kicked off when it comes to procurement of services and all of that good stuff. If you look at your counterparts to the south, it took up to over 6-7 months before they ever got to the point of actually acquiring the property. But I don't foresee that taking nearly as long in this case.
Terry, if I can, this is Tim Wickman. What, are there funds available to pick up the county's share?
So as of right now, the only available funds that would have potentially been able to be used is that those CDBG grant dollars that have been mentioned, and you were briefed on kind of where that stands as of this moment. Unfortunately, when it comes to a federal grant of our nature, the only matching funds that can be used are non-federal funds. So either local match or funds that lose their federal identity. And in this case, CDBG funds are the only funds that technically lose their federal identity once they get into the state coffers.
So is it federal dollars will pick up 80% of the cost?
So it's a 75-10-15 split. 75% will be federal, 10 will be state, and then 15% will be local.
Was Mills County and Fremont County, were they awarded special state dollars to cover their 15% of that?
No. Initially, so at the initial onset of the application, before we knew CDBG was going to actually step up to the table and provide funds, the flood recovery fund enacted by the states, they did allocate funds to Mills, Fremont, Pacific Junction, and Hamburg for the allowance of paying for their local match 15%. But then once CDBG came to the table, those funds were reallocated to be used for what they call redevelopment purposes in that area. So while it was on the table, it got taken off the table pretty quickly.
Okay.
So is there Terry Scott Belt, is there a possibility that the flood mitigation board will have funds appropriated to it and applying through it again?
Your guess is as good as mine on that one. We haven't heard of anything coming up. We always say there's an open application period just in case. But there's been the last that I heard, there's been no rumblings of the congressional delegates coming together to try to put additional funds into that program.
Isn't there the state put money into it also last year or 2 years ago? The state?
Into the flood recovery fund?
Yeah, is that what they refer to it as, that has the state flood fund?
Yeah, the state came together in the 2019 time period, and they did an allocation, and I think it was either 14 or 21 million, wasn't it, Terry, that the state of Iowa allocated to that fund? Yeah, and that's where we ended up receiving.
And then they bumped it up, and the old adage has always been additional funds without a reallocation of money from the state. There's always an outside chance of potential, what we call underruns for projects that have been approved already. So let's say a project was approved for $10 million. And they come in at the towards the end, or somewhere towards the end, less than that. That money is technically supposed to be brought back into the program and then redistributed however the board sees fit. But again, you're talking some bigger projects that are 2, 3, 4 years down the road of being completed. So it's real hard to gauge, what's actually going to be there and if the need is actually going to be there, especially in a case like yours when it comes to the acquisition, because, we're not going to be sitting on a project like this for, 3, 4 years.
Okay, thank you.
So that could be something potentially that we add on to for our state representatives to maybe lobby for some kind of allocation to that. That was where we were able to, through Supervisor Wickman and Belt, everybody going up there and really pushing hard for us to get those funds, and they did allocate those funds for our levy districts at the time.
So, Matt, the 2 million, is that the total assessed value? I'm sorry, it would be the total that they've appraised.
So we have appraised values, so that's the 8 properties that we picked, met up to, I think it was for $2.3 million, I believe is what the award was, somewhere around that amount. So we picked 8 properties that met that criteria, that would fit within there, that were in the closest to the Missouri River, the most at risk, then try to pull those out.
Okay, who picks up the demolition and the legal and closing?
That's included in the grant,
That's included in the 2.3?
yes.
So Potawatomi County needs to come up with 15% of 2.3 million?
Correct.
Which was, I think you guys signed that resolution, in the fall. It was 300 and some thousand. But I had spoken to Stephen at EDA and the CDBG buyout for the match does not have to qualify for that MID county. So he was going to initiate some conversations with Terry and his department to see if there was funding available for that buyout, our portion, the 15%. Because that did not have to qualify for the MID.
Do we still have a shot for getting our 15% covered?
We're trying everything that we can.
Yeah, and based on I don't know, maybe Terry can add to this. Based on the last conversation I had with Stephen with EDA last week, he thought that there was money available for the buyout portion.
I don't know that we're gonna get away from our 15% share. I mean, we had our 15% share in 2011. We're gonna wind up with a 15% share in this.
Well, that's gonna have an impact on how many, whether any more funds become available for those other properties. That's gonna make a difference on whether Potawatomi County can even afford to move forward with any more.
It would be something that the Board of Supervisors would definitely want to consider, how to cover the amount of funds. Because if we get, if they, by whatever chance Terry were to be able to come back to us and say, hey, this MID project, shifted a large amount of funds, here's $5 million that you could potentially go and buy out properties with. Well, do you want to turn away that it's hard to say that we would turn away that $5 million for 15% of it. When you look at it kind of like a grant capability of it, I mean, you have $5 million, you have to come up with 15% of that to be able to receive that $5 million. I mean, you kind of want to go, it's hard to say not to go with it.
Well, that would be $750,000.
It would be.
Okay, we need to figure out, generally speaking, how much money we need to set aside. Fund balance, if we're gonna do it.
Yeah, there is.
So we don't have to worry about it until any money becomes available, but it's just,
Right.
you know, if it does,
Well, I think having a ballpark of what all these would be worth, and then we can work our way back from that.
so keep in mind, well, how much were the appraisals?
That's your $12 million figure, right?
It was, 7,130,000 was the appraisal amount on the homes. Add the legal and closing demolition, it was like 7.7 million.
Because the max, they had a max number this time on what they would go to, didn't they?
Two-ish, a little over two.
Wasn't it an average of two something, 235 or something?
What's that in your market?
I think it was is that, the number we're talking about, Terry, is that 273, and that was just before it had to go to an independent environmental assessment, historical review, all that?
Yeah.
Is that 200, was that 273?
276,000 was the overall average of a property before we had to do a benefit cost analysis on it. And by that, we can do a overall average of the project amount.
Fine.
If the overall average falls below that 276, then we're fine. You know, what will happen is if all of a sudden we go through this first round that's already been approved, and then you want to pick off, say, like 5 or 6 more, but they're all on the uber high end of the values that far exceed that 276, then, you know, that may cause some issues even be able to pick some of those off, because we still have to fall under that 276 threshold.
Just gotta know how many people are still of the 8 top, I do, how many of them are still, you know.
Pam, was that 7.7, was that for the 32 homes or just the 8?
That was all the people that expressed interest, so yes, the 32 homes.
Matt, one last question for you. There was, I believe, a $30,000, for lack of better words, a relocation assistance money on this. Do these 8 property owners qualify for that?
No, that's not part of this. That was kind of off the table. Right, Terry?
The relocation assistance,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so there is a component to the grant that's available of $31,000 for replacement housing benefit. It's voluntary for the county to provide to individuals, so that's on whether or not you guys want to do it. But it also goes into the overall calculation of that 276 threshold as well. So in some cases, communities, especially if the budgets are tight, they still carry that 15% local match for that amount as well. So if budgets are tight, they choose not to provide the ability for those owners to capture that $31,000 for the replacement housing because it's part of the grant itself. On the other side, depending on how many houses you want to acquire, some will go away from the 31,000 to allow maybe another house or 2 to be acquired with those funds as well. So that's where the balancing act has to come in as far as those funds are concerned when it's what's going to be available.
That explains that. Okay.
Okay, any other questions for?
Yes, Matt, what becomes of the property once they do a buyout?
You're the proud owner.
The county is?
Yep.
Totally.
And it takes,
Deed restricted.
it becomes
They can't ever reuse it, anything there?
So we own a
So-
number. Okay, go ahead, Terry.
So in essence, the easy answer to that question is the property becomes deed restricted as open space compliance in perpetuity. Now that doesn't mean there's absolutely nothing that can be done with the property. We have several that are leasing out farms. You know, they just can't construct any permanent structures on it. So, you know, they can't put silos on it. no fencing or anything like that. But if you have an adjacent farmer that maybe has a farm that's been farming that land and wants to expand, they can do that. It can be used as a conservation efforts. We've had some communities that have turned them into recreation areas. We've had some people turn them into retention basins. There are things you can do with it. So I don't want to make it sound like it's just this bleak opening of doing nothing. But then, depending on where they're located at, there might not be anything you can do with it. So counties will just prairie grass it and let it go.
But the liability on that property is in the county's box.
And it
In essence, yeah.
it does add to things that you already have to do. So these properties have to be looked at once a year at a minimum. And then every 5 years, then a bigger survey goes across where you submit photos, GPS points, all of those different pieces along with that. So the more of these properties we get, the more time we're spending out there inspecting them, surveying them. Conservation has been great and helped us out in a lot of them. They do a lot of burns on them, but there are things that have to happen. They don't just get to sit there.
It all goes off the tax rolls.
Wasn't there something in the,
Fence, not a-
Scotty, wasn't there something in the federal code that a regional FEMA director could allow that 2-acre property to be given to the adjacent farmer with a deed restriction on it?
No,
Yeah, so there is a chance where with the regional director's approval, you can lease it back to the adjacent property owner or some other property owner, with the idea that the deed restriction language associates that or accompanies that lease that you were to give it to that owner. The problem is, and several people do, several communities do that as well. But the liability still remains on the county. So if that farmer all of a sudden brings that property out of compliance for whatever reason, i.e. starts sitting his tractors and everything else on him for long term, then it's on the county to rectify that situation.
Right. No, I thought it was a transfer of ownership, but it's only,
you cannot.
No.
okay, it's only leasing.
There cannot be any. The only transfer of ownership that can be done is through a conservation effort. So to the local conservation.
These 8, I don't even know what the footprint on these 8 are, but they could be a half an acre to an acre parcel scattered around
And Mark.
that area. So, it's not like that land's gonna be.
No, it's a quilt pieces. The largest is 10 acres.
Here's
see, I think
the
it's
8
bigger.
down here. These aren't.
What's that?
The first 8 are down here. They don't have acres on them.
The first A.
So I gave you guys a new spreadsheet this morning, which Matt said you wanted to know the properties that were less than,
No, that's for later.
okay. So the one that Andrew, that I submitted to Andrew to give to you guys include the top 8. So if you,
It's on here, it's on the computer.
It doesn't have the acres on it either.
no, the one that I handed you
Anyway, Brian,
does
it
though.
doesn't really matter. Those, they're not,
This one
they're
has
not
acres
really
on it.
worth anything.
There is one on here that's pretty big, number 6.
Yeah, and that's, if you're looking
For
at,
Frost Trust.
yeah, that's not,
That's 10 acres.
Oh, that's all it is, 10 acres?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the.
You must be looking at different sheets.
There's one up here. One on here they sent this morning in the agenda
Okay.
packet. They've got the 8 up there.
That, I mean, even 10 is not.
number 6, you said?
Number 6 is the biggest one.
I don't see. I don't see any acres on it.
Well, if there is, then no.
He's just talking on.
If you look on this one, Tim, it has the acres. So
Oh, right.
number 6 is Frost, but they did a survey to reduce it to
Oh,
just
I
the
see
footprint
that.
of the
I
house,
got it.
so.
Okay,
it
I was
would
looking
be-
at it on my.
So they just they basically created a parcel around their, like,
Yes.
buildings.
Yes,
House.
And that's what most of them will do, is they're not gonna pay for.
No, yeah, if they wanna keep their property, I get it.
And I think if it gets farmed, you can't, and you lease it to someone, you can't make any money on it, is that right?
We don't. It's just with the leases, the land leases that we had on them are dollar leases for 99 years
So there's
on
no-
all the different parcels.
From the county?
From the
to-
county to the landowners.
There's no revenue in it, so.
No.
Oh, okay. that
But we
was my
still
next
have to,
question.
we still have to sit there and do all the survey work and everything.
Well, it keeps us from.
There is no requirements against you actually raising that to something of substance, just as an FYI.
The reasoning on why,
Once a grant is closed, we do not, there's nobody overseeing any revenue being generated from a situation of that nature.
so
Whoa, I didn't catch all that. Terry, you said we could have a standard farm lease on it after the grant closes?
Potentially.
Okay,
So the reasoning on why our land leases were set up the way that they are, you're not leasing somebody a prime piece of farm ground from the get.
right.
Those farmers had to go in there and they did all the clearing work, got it all up to where it was actually farmable ground. So it saved an expense on our side.
And continue to maintain it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else for Matt, Pam, or Terry?
Good.
if you
Okay.
keep me posted on that, would you, as far as our getting some funding for our share? Thank you.
And if you do have property owners that reach out to you, if you could let us know, so then that way we can try to make contact with them with, things do change week by week with the information that we get, and we try to keep them as updated as we can. But we understand it's a long process, and it takes some time. But yeah, just refer them to us.
Terry, do you know, is the state flood board meeting again at all?
There's been no indication of when the next board meeting is going to happen now.
Okay.
And now that the director has been, or my director, the Homeland Security Emergency Management Director, has been changed. That also means the director of the board has been changed. So last I knew, Paul Trombino is now the head of the flood mitigation board. So I don't know how that's going to affect going forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys.
thanks, Terry.
Thanks.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
You know, we do have, legal experts to go on that board, John Erickson.
I believe so, yeah, I think I saw that.
Share the state, yes.
So,
I think it is something that we can really petition our state representatives to say, hey, can you try to get some more funding in there? Because from the onset of it, there was a lot of funding that went through that board to eastern Iowa. So
Right.
if we could get a few years where some of that funding is pushed to western Iowa, I don't think there would be anything wrong with that.
no, Wichita needs it just as bad.
I mean, it's
City council.
when we were up there the year that we were up there, I mean, there was that one project on eastern Iowa got funded for, I think it was $500,000 for a well.
Yeah.
And so I don't,
Really well or something.
right, so I mean, they should be able to push those same kind of funds our way for projects. We got enough of them.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Scotty, I'll make a motion to, reappoint me and Kristen and John
It's a 3-year appointment. You concur with that, right? 3-year appointment. And Supervisor Schultz seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Approval and authorization of board to sign resolution number 11-2021, a resolution entitling resolution for transfer from county case management fund to general basic fund.
Do we have to do that?
Well,
Yeah,
Suzanne, can you let us know about it?
yep.
Yeah,
Suzanne,
so,
Becky?
do you want me to go? So the old case management program that we had was a Medicaid program. It was cost-based. Most of the money that we have sitting in the fund is due to an indirect cost piece of that continued to go up and up as we, so there's quite a bit chunk of change sitting there. The indirect cost, I think, gosh, at some point was up to like 23%. So that was money that was just, most of it for case management was salaries, but that indirect cost was substantial. So when our case management program closed, at that time we had moved it from Fund 10, 2 years prior to it closing, to Fund 1. So we had set that money aside, knowing that we would be doing construction and that there would be money there for the region offices at that time. So there is
771,
yeah.
795, 94.
Of that, we have, we want to be able to write from there our cubicle and desks and our office space cost, which is, have a bill from Payless that's $98,411. The other part will be for the common area break room that can be used, obviously it's right outside the multipurpose room. So I talked to David about it and he thinks it'd be easier for us just to go ahead and buy the 2 of the refrigerators and freezers that are down there. And then a coffee maker and microwave so that it wouldn't be just used by our office, but it would be simpler if we go ahead and take care of that out of these funds too. So out of that, I think we won't use more than 100 and I haven't priced the refrigerators, 105,000. And then the rest will just be there for you.
So is the 771 what we have left after you go on your spending spree?
No, that's prior to my spending spree. Thank you.
Suzanne, the only question I have for you, are there any requirements for these funds?
No, there aren't. And our case management program has been closed long enough that we kept it sitting there just in case as well. At some point they'd come back and audit and the state would want money back or something, but the program has been closed longer than I think now, probably
13 was when they regionalized.
Yeah, it was after that. So anyway,
All right.
I think that money should be clear now.
Been 5 years of that.
I'll second it.
Who made the motion? Schultz?
Suzanne? Suzanne?
Yeah.
Was the money not originally paid from county taxpayers for this amount or not?
Was the money originally, say that again?
Was that originally tax dollars that was put into this fund?
No, it was basically Medicaid dollars. It was Iowa Medicaid dollars.
That were paid back
Yeah.
to the state, back to us?
Yeah, case management was pretty much a 100% covered Medicaid program.
Okay.
This does not include the 105, correct?
No, that'd be something she'll have
Totally
to,
different.
she'll have to do.
Okay.
We gotta just transfer this from, see, that shows up right here.
And that was an accumulation of 20, we had our case management program for probably 20 years. So, I mean, it was, that seems like a lot of money, but it was just a slow accumulation of those funds.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
One last question. These funds are not part of your cash reserve.
That's
No.
correct.
Okay.
They are in Fund 1. Right, Becky?
So there's no strings attached to that.
No.
They will be transferred to Fund 1 out of 9.
From, oh, they're in Fund 9 now,
They'll be
going to
transferred
Fund
to
1.
Fund 1, General Fund, out of Fund 9.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call?
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Groby,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
and Shea.
All right.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, discussion and or decision to approve educational reimbursement request for Corey Little and detention officer. Pardon?
Is that just like a college thing?
This for the college, for reimbursement for education of $676. Andy Brown signed it, he completed,
I'll make a motion.
Yeah. I'll second it.
conflict management. Okay, so, Brian, you said you made the motion?
Yep.
Supervisor Shea, thank you. Supervisor Schultz, second, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Discussion on filling vacancy on magistrate appointment commission. We need to fill in the third spot on the magistrate. Jerry Metz, who retired, I don't know if he's moving out, but he was in the Boca area. I'm not sure what our,
Did we say we get a nomination?
pardon?
Did we get nominations or?
No, I don't think we got any nominations. If we have to be,
Mark Shoemaker said he wanted to do it.
no, I think there's some,
What does this person need to be? Does he need
Go
to
ahead.
be a civilian, an attorney?
no, it's gotta be a civilian. I don't think it can be an attorney.
Should say civilian, citizen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it need to be from the rural part of Potawatomi County?
I don't know that for a fact, but I'm guessing it probably should be. Since this one was from out,
Would it be nice to have some nominations first?
how do that's what we need to bring forth, some nomination. It's us that makes that.
I know, but
So,
I don't know, I need to get like a description of duties and timeline and stuff like that. I could probably, how soon do we need to do this or is it today?
no, there's no action taken.
Okay.
Discussion only.
I think if I can
I
get kind
thought
of
he
a
was-
list of what they're.
I thought he was
that'd be
gonna,
good. I could talk to a few people out there.
I thought he was putting that in here.
All right, I'll get with Andrew.
I'll get that, I'll have him send that out what the, kind of the code is on that. Get that to everybody, but we need to be looking for someone for that position. And that's a 3-year position.
Is there an opening coming up?
There is an opening now.
That Jerry Metz retired.
No, I'm talking about in the magistrate.
Oh, no, not that I know. Haven't heard of any. Okay. Discussion on sharing agenda and minutes from boards representative appointments via shared Dropbox. Discussion was held, Chair, Andrew wants to set up a Dropbox.
Oh, just to dump those in.
Dump
Yeah.
those into those.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
So we know, kind of keep track of what's going on
Yeah,
better.
That's fine.
and get the agendas from all those places and all the minutes. from
The only thing I'd caution is we just need to make sure that it's not I think you probably just need to make sure we create folders within.
Right, that's what he's gonna do. I
And then
think.
that way, it's just not a bunch of garbage, like a naming convention, so that way we know like maybe the date and then whatever the name of the meeting is or something. 'Cause
Right,
otherwise it'll just get filled up with, you won't know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
That seems good to me.
yeah. Okay.
That's mine. Do we need, we don't take any action.
No,
Just instruct them.
I do think maybe we add just, if there is anything relevant that needs to get shared, maybe we just. do
well, yeah,
like
you still
follow-up
can do
meetings.
that.
Yeah, like we used to do,
Yeah,
just put it at the end of the agenda or something.
yeah, he's getting, I mean, it'll be something he'll work through and we might have to tweak it, so. Becky Linehan, Assistant Financial Officer, Auditor's Office, discussion and decision to approve disallowance. The following applications made to the Assessor's Office.
I'll make the motion to approve as listed. There were 3 that were denied. One of them was residential partial that didn't qualify for the business tax credit. One was an agricultural parcel that didn't qualify for the tax credit. And there was one more, then one was a multi-residential that didn't qualify for the tax credit. All the other ones were allowed.
You made a motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
There was actually 2 residential properties.
Right, one multi-residential, one residential.
Yeah, it must have been right next to each other or something. Motion by Supervisor Wickman, seconded by Supervisor Shea. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
And Scott, if I may, I would ask that the board consider moving item 4, received and filed, to the end of our agenda and move forward with closed session 5, which is Mark Shoemaker.
Okay.
I don't know if you do, does that require a motion or do we just do it?
No, I think,
You can just do it.
you can just.
Well, if you guys, you were talking about number 3?
Yep.
Oh, you said 4, but I think
4.
number 3 is what you want to talk about. I have to leave here by 2 o'clock if you're gonna.
We'll have you out here by then.
Motion
Okay.
number 4.
We're gonna
item
move
number
that to
4.
the end.
Move it to the end of the agenda. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Item 3.
No, well, we used to move.
Oh, item,
item
okay,
4.
yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna go into, close, this is the time and place for a closed session with, Mark Shoemaker, Conservation Director Mike Geyer, Rich Volker, is that correct? Schneider and Associates, closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5, parent 1, parent C, comma J, parent, for the discussion and/or decision on a purchase or sale of particular real estate, discussion on pending legal matters.
So move. Second.
Motion by Supervisor Wickman, second by Supervisor Schultz. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Grovey, Wickman,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
and Shea.
Aye.
Okay,
Ready?
yep,
Close?
yep.
You take care of